This is the Redmi 12C, actually a successor to the 10C from last year, and this boasts of 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, and the Helio G85 processor from MediaTek, and all this for 84,000 naira, about $115. From within the box, you get the smartphone itself, a SIM ejector, the paperwork, a 10-watt charger, and a micro USB connector, and that's about it. But micro USB in 2023 is not something I mess with. I wonder why they had to leave this on here. Design-wise, you of course get a plastic-built smartphone with cheap-feeling tapered corners. You can also notice this stripe-like pattern going across the rear of the smartphone and tend to melt beneath the camera module design, similar to those we saw last year. There is also a fingerprint scanner placed at the rear of the smartphone, and you don't have this power button doubling as the fingerprint scanner. Still on design, you get a dual SIM tray with a dedicated micro SD card slot. The audio jack is also retained on this device, and there's a power button and the volume rocker to the right side of the smartphone. Other parts, as far as I/O, are usual. A single downfiring speaker grill, micro USB port, and the microphone. So you get a plastic-built smartphone with cheap-feeling tapered corners. Honestly, this smartphone feels like it was made in a hurry without any design concept in mind, just a slab of glass and plastic. And the stripe-like pattern on the rear feels like it's melting under the camera module design. Yikes, it's like a bad tattoo that you can't get rid of. But hey, it does have a fingerprint scanner at the back, which is pretty cool. But you know what's not so cool about this smartphone? The fact that we get a micro USB connector in 2023. Come on Redmi, we're not living in the Stone Age. Now the display on here is LCD panel at 6.7 inches, which is usually bigger than my ego. And that's about where the interesting bit on this display ends. You get 60 Hz as far as the refresh rate. The resolution here is just HD, pretty basic display if you ask me, and nothing really interesting to see here. And if you're using the smartphone under direct sunlight or outdoors, you might as well be staring into the sun directly because this display isn't the brightest to use outdoors. But that isn't peculiar to this smartphone, as you should be expecting same from other similarly priced smartphones. Now, you get out of the box MIUI 13, which is based off Android 12 for the Redmi 12C on here. I don't know about software updates, but it's just pretty basic MIUI you get on here. You have the Helio G85 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. Sounds impressive, right? But wait, there's more. Performance on here isn't top notch, but it's still pretty decent for, the entry-level games you play with devices and for your day-to-day mobile computing tasks. However, I wouldn't recommend this as a gaming smartphone, except you want to rage quit every time you try to play a game on this device. Then by all means go ahead and do that. That's your choice. But seriously, this isn't a gaming smartphone, and you'll thank me later for saving you from that frustration. Now you get a dual camera setup at the rear here, a 50 megapixel main sensor and a depth sensor to complement this other one. Photos are not exceptional and also are not the worst you get from, say, this price you pay. Here are the photos you should expect from this device. Just let me know what you think about them. Now the front-facing camera isn't the best there is. It gives you a 5 megapixel sensor. Yes, that's it, 5 megapixel for a front-facing camera. I wouldn't take photos with this camera. But actually, I'd rather take selfies using the rear cameras on the smartphone. But would those be called selfies also? What do you think? Out of the box, this smartphone has a 5000 mAh battery. You have enough juice to power through a day with this device and with no worries. You can charge this smartphone over the night using the slow but steady 10-watt charger you get from within the box. So what's my final take and verdict on the Redmi 12C? Is it worth your money? Well, here's one thing. Micro USB isn't something I expected to see on smartphones in 2023. And while the Redmi 12C isn't a bad device, there are other brands like Tecno and Infinix that offer better value for money around this price range. In fact, the 10C, which is a predecessor, feels like a better value for money than this one. However, if you prioritize updates, then the Redmi 12C might be a better option than those other devices, because this might likely have maybe 1 year of update or so, I don't know. So ultimately, it's left for you to decide. Here's a review of the Redmi Note 12. That day.